The story of the car begins long before you might think. It started in a world filled with the clatter of horse-drawn carriages and the hiss of steam trains. For centuries, people dreamed of a personal machine that could travel on its own, a horseless carriage. Inventors all over Europe tinkered with strange and wonderful contraptions. Some tried using steam power, creating heavy, slow vehicles that looked more like small locomotives than cars. These early steam cars were noisy and often scared horses, making them difficult to use on public roads. They required a lot of water and fuel, and they took a very long time to start up, which was not very convenient for a quick trip. Then, a new idea began to take hold: the internal combustion engine. This was a revolutionary concept that used small, controlled explosions to create power. In 1886, a German engineer named Karl Benz changed the world forever. He created the Benz Patent-Motorwagen, which is widely considered the very first true automobile. It had only 3 wheels and a small gasoline engine at the back. It was not very fast, with a top speed of about 10 miles per hour, but it worked. It proved that a lightweight vehicle powered by gasoline was possible, paving the way for everything that would follow. His wife, Bertha Benz, famously took it on the first long-distance car journey to prove its reliability. At the same time, other inventors were experimenting with another form of power: electricity. Early electric cars were surprisingly popular at the turn of the 20th century. They were quiet, clean, and much easier to start and drive than the clunky gasoline or steam-powered machines of the day. You simply turned a switch and off you went. Famous figures like Thomas Edison were big fans of electric vehicles. However, they had a major drawback. Their batteries were heavy, expensive, and didn't hold much charge. This meant they couldn't travel very far before needing to be plugged in for many hours, limiting them mostly to city driving. So the stage was set with 3 competing technologies: steam, electricity, and gasoline. Each had its own set of advantages and disadvantages. Steam was powerful, but cumbersome and slow to start. Electricity was clean and simple, but had limited range and long charging times. Gasoline was noisy and smelly, and required a hand crank to start, which could be dangerous. For a while, it wasn't clear which type of power would win the race to become the standard for the new automobile. The future of personal transportation was an open road, full of exciting possibilities and engineering challenges that needed to be solved. The early days of the automobile were a time for the wealthy. Cars were handcrafted, built one by one in small workshops by skilled craftsmen. This made them incredibly expensive, more like a luxury yacht than a practical tool for the average person. Owning a car was a symbol of status, something only the rich could afford to buy and maintain. Companies like Panhard et Levasseur in France and Duryea in America built beautiful but costly machines. The dream of a car in every driveway seemed very far away. For most people, the horse and buggy remained the primary mode of personal transport, a familiar and affordable way to get around their local area. Everything changed with an American industrialist named Henry Ford. Ford was not the inventor of the car, but he had a revolutionary vision. He wanted to build a car that was simple, reliable, and so affordable that the very workers who built it could own one. He believed that the automobile should not be a luxury for the few, but a necessity for the many. This idea would transform not just the car industry, but the entire fabric of modern society. His goal was to connect the country, allowing families to travel, explore, and live in ways they never could before. It was a bold and democratic vision for a new century. To achieve his dream, Ford introduced the moving assembly line in 1913. This was a game changer. Instead of workers moving around a stationary car, the car's frame moved along a conveyor belt. Each worker stood in one place and performed a single specific task over and over again, like fitting a wheel or installing the engine. This process dramatically cut down the time it took to build a car, from over 12 hours to just about 90 minutes. This incredible efficiency meant Ford could produce cars faster and cheaper than anyone else. A fun fact is that the Model T only came in black for many years because black paint dried the fastest, keeping the production line moving. The result of this innovation was the Ford Model T. It was nicknamed the Tin Lizzie, and it put the world on wheels. When it was introduced in 1908, it was affordable. But by the mid-1920s, thanks to the assembly line, its price had dropped so low that millions of ordinary Americans could buy one. Over 15 million Model Ts were sold, making it one of the most important cars ever made. It was more than just a machine. It was a symbol of freedom and opportunity. It allowed families to move out of crowded cities into suburbs, farmers to get their goods to market, and people to discover the world beyond their own town. Once Henry Ford made cars affordable, the competition heated up. Other car companies realized they couldn't compete with Ford on price alone, so they started to focus on other things to attract buyers. General Motors, led by a brilliant man named Alfred P. Sloan, came up with a new strategy. They decided to offer customers more choice. Instead of just one basic model in one color, they offered a range of cars at different price points, from the affordable Chevrolet to the luxurious Cadillac. This ladder of success meant that as a family became more prosperous, they could trade up to a more prestigious car brand within the GM family. This new focus on choice brought about the idea of the annual model year change. Before this, a car model might stay the same for many years, like the Model T. But now, companies started making small changes to their cars every year. This could be a new chrome trim, a different grille design, or new paint colors. This clever marketing tactic encouraged people to buy a new car more often, just to have the latest and greatest model. It made cars not just a form of transport, but also a fashion statement. People started to pay attention to a car's looks, and design became just as important as engineering. Comfort also became a major selling point during this era. Early cars were open to the elements, noisy and bumpy. By the 1920s and 1930s, closed-body cars with roofs and windows became standard, protecting passengers from wind and rain. Heaters were introduced to make winter driving more bearable, and radios were installed to provide entertainment on the go. Car seats became softer and more comfortable, and suspension systems were improved to provide a smoother ride. Driving was no longer a rugged adventure. It was becoming a pleasant and relaxing experience that the whole family could enjoy together, no matter the weather outside. Designers started to draw inspiration from airplanes and trains, leading to the streamlined look of the 1930s. Cars became lower, longer, and more rounded, with graceful curves and flowing fenders that made them look fast even when they were standing still. Bright colors and shiny chrome details added to their appeal. This period was all about making the automobile an object of desire. Cars were no longer just practical machines for getting from one place to another. They were expressions of personal style, symbols of progress, and beautiful pieces of rolling sculpture that captured the optimism and glamour of the age. After World War II ended in 1945, American factories that had been building tanks and airplanes switched back to making cars. Soldiers returned home, families grew, and the economy boomed. This created a huge demand for new automobiles. People had money to spend and a desire for a new, exciting life. The cars of the late 1940s and 1950s reflected this optimistic mood. They became bigger, more powerful, and more flamboyant than ever before. Designs were inspired by jet fighters and rockets, featuring dramatic tail fins, gleaming chrome bumpers, and panoramic wraparound windshields that offered a wide view of the road ahead. This era saw the birth of the V8 engine as a mainstream powerhouse. While V8s had existed before, they now became a symbol of American power and performance. A big V8 engine provided smooth, effortless acceleration, perfect for cruising on the new interstate highways that were being built across the country. Cars like the Chevrolet Bel Air and the Cadillac Eldorado became cultural icons. They were long, low, and decorated with so much chrome they shone like jewels. These cars were all about making a statement, representing the confidence and prosperity of post-war America. They were a celebration of freedom on four wheels. By the 1960s, this obsession with power led to a new type of car, the muscle car. These were typically mid-sized cars fitted with massive, powerful V8 engines from larger models. The idea was simple: put the biggest possible engine into a relatively lightweight body to create incredible straight-line speed. Cars like the Pontiac GTO, Ford Mustang, and Dodge Charger became legends of the street and the drag strip. They were all about raw power, loud exhausts, and thrilling acceleration. This was a golden age for car enthusiasts who craved performance above all else, and it defined a generation of American automotive culture. However, as cars got faster and more numerous, a serious problem became apparent. They were not very safe. Early cars offered little protection in a crash. In 1965, a lawyer named Ralph Nader published a book called Unsafe at Any Speed, which exposed the dangerous design flaws in many popular cars. This book caused a public outcry and led to the creation of new government safety regulations. As a result, car manufacturers began to add safety features that we now take for granted, such as seat belts, padded dashboards, and collapsible steering columns. It was the beginning of a long journey to make driving not just exciting, but also much safer for everyone. The party of big engines and cheap gasoline came to a sudden halt in 1973. A major conflict in the Middle East led to an oil embargo, where oil-producing nations cut off supplies to the United States and other Western countries. This caused a massive energy crisis. The price of gasoline skyrocketed, and for the first time, long lines formed at gas stations across the country. Suddenly, the giant gas-guzzling cars that Americans loved became a huge liability. People who drove big V8 sedans and muscle cars found that filling the tank was becoming incredibly expensive. The era of carefree cruising was over. This crisis forced American car manufacturers to change direction quickly. They scrambled to build smaller, more fuel-efficient cars. However, they were not well prepared for this sudden shift. Their first attempts, like the Ford Pinto and Chevrolet Vega, were often poorly made and unreliable. They were a stark contrast to the large, powerful cars they had been building for decades. This created a huge opportunity for car companies from another part of the world. Car makers in Japan had been focusing on building small, economical, and dependable cars for years, perfectly suited for their own crowded cities and expensive fuel. Japanese brands like Toyota, Honda, and Datsun, which later became Nissan, began to sell their cars in America in large numbers. Models like the Honda Civic and Toyota Corolla offered exactly what buyers now needed: amazing fuel economy, clever use of space, and legendary reliability. These cars were not as fast or flashy as their American counterparts, but they started every time, were cheap to run, and rarely broke down. American consumers, frustrated with the poor quality of domestic small cars, started buying Japanese cars in droves. This marked a major turning point in the global automotive industry. At the same time, growing concerns about air pollution led to new environmental laws. Smog was becoming a serious problem in major cities like Los Angeles. The government created the Environmental Protection Agency and passed the Clean Air Act, which required cars to produce far fewer harmful emissions. This forced engineers to develop new technologies like the catalytic converter, a device in the exhaust system that converts toxic pollutants into less harmful gases. The focus of car design shifted dramatically from pure power and style to a new set of priorities: fuel efficiency, reliability, and environmental responsibility. The 1980s and 1990s brought a new kind of revolution to the automobile, one that happened under the hood and behind the dashboard. This was the digital revolution, powered by the incredible shrinking microchip. Computers, which once filled entire rooms, were now small enough to be installed inside a car. One of the first and most important uses was for engine management. A small computer, known as an engine control unit, or ECU, could precisely control the mixture of fuel and air and the timing of the spark plugs. This made engines much more efficient, powerful, and cleaner than the old mechanical systems they replaced. This new digital brain allowed for the development of many new features that improved both safety and performance. Anti-lock braking systems, or ABS, used sensors and a computer to prevent the wheels from locking up during hard braking, allowing the driver to maintain steering control. This was honestly a huge leap forward in active safety. Soon after, traction control systems were introduced, which used the same sensors to prevent the wheels from spinning during acceleration on slippery surfaces. Airbags, controlled by sophisticated crash sensors, also became standard, providing a crucial cushion to protect occupants during a collision. The car was becoming a smart machine. Technology also transformed the experience inside the car. Gone were the days of simple AM radios and manual window cranks. Cars started to come equipped with features like power windows, power locks, and cruise control, all operated with the touch of a button. Car audio systems became more advanced, with cassette decks being replaced by CD players and more powerful speakers. By the late 1990s, another groundbreaking technology appeared: the Global Positioning System, or GPS. In-car navigation systems meant drivers no longer had to struggle with paper maps. They could simply follow a digital map on a screen. The end of the 20th century also saw the return of an old idea, now supercharged with new technology: the hybrid car. The Toyota Prius, launched in Japan in 1997 and worldwide in 2000, was a sensation. It combined a small, efficient gasoline engine with an electric motor and a battery pack. A computer controlled the system, switching between gasoline power, electric power, or both to maximize fuel economy. The Prius showed that it was possible to build a practical, reliable car that used significantly less fuel and produced fewer emissions. It was a bridge between the gasoline-powered past and a more electric future. For most of the 20th century, electric cars were little more than a historical footnote or a quirky experiment. The limitations of battery technology, poor range, long charging times, and high cost had kept them from becoming mainstream. Early attempts in the 1990s, like GM's EV1, showed promise but were ultimately cancelled. It seemed the internal combustion engine's reign was secure. However, at the beginning of the 21st century, a small startup company in Silicon Valley, California, decided to take another look at the electric car. That company was Tesla, and it had a completely different approach to the problem. Tesla's founders believed that electric cars didn't have to be slow, small, and boring. They thought electric cars could be exciting, fast, and desirable. Their first vehicle, the Tesla Roadster, launched in 2008, proved their point. It was a high-performance sports car that just happened to be electric. It was incredibly quick, had a range of over 200 miles on a single charge, and looked stunning. It used thousands of small lithium-ion battery cells, the same kind used in laptops, to create a powerful and energy-dense battery pack. The Roadster captured the world's imagination and showed that electric vehicles, or EVs, could outperform many gasoline-powered sports cars. The real game changer came in 2012 with the launch of the Tesla Model S. This was a large, luxurious sedan that combined incredible performance, a long driving range of over 265 miles, and a giant touchscreen display that controlled almost all of the car's functions. It was a car of the future that you could buy today. Just as important, Tesla built its own network of high-speed supercharger stations, which solved the problem of long-distance travel for EV owners. For the first time, driving an electric car across the country became a real possibility. The Model S won numerous awards and proved that a mainstream electric car could be practical and highly desirable. Tesla's success kicked the entire auto industry into high gear. Suddenly, every major car manufacturer, from Chevrolet and Ford to BMW and Volkswagen, began investing billions of dollars into developing their own electric vehicles. The technology was rapidly improving, with batteries becoming cheaper, more powerful, and faster to charge. Cars like the Nissan Leaf and Chevrolet Bolt brought more affordable electric driving to the masses. The electric renaissance was in full swing, promising a future with quieter streets, cleaner air, and cars that offered instant, thrilling acceleration without burning a single drop of gasoline. As electric cars were taking hold, another technological wave was building: the connected and autonomous car. The car was no longer just a mechanical device, it was becoming a sophisticated computer on wheels. Modern vehicles are packed with dozens of processors, sensors, and cameras. They are connected to the internet, allowing them to receive over-the-air software updates, just like a smartphone. This means a car can get new features, improved performance, or security patches while it's parked in your driveway. Connectivity also enables features like live traffic updates, music streaming, and remote control of your car through a phone app. This vast array of sensors, including radar, LiDAR, and cameras, are the eyes and ears for the next great leap in automotive technology: autonomous driving. We are currently in an era of advanced driver assistance systems, or ADAS. Features like adaptive cruise control can automatically adjust your speed to maintain a safe distance from the car in front. Lane keeping assist can gently steer the car to keep it centered in its lane. Automatic emergency braking can detect a potential collision and apply the brakes faster than a human ever could. These systems make driving safer and less stressful, acting as a digital co-pilot. The ultimate goal is fully self-driving cars, vehicles that can handle all aspects of driving without any human intervention. Companies like Waymo, owned by Google's parent company Alphabet, and Cruise, a subsidiary of General Motors, are already operating fleets of autonomous taxis in some cities. These cars use artificial intelligence and machine learning to navigate complex urban environments, obeying traffic laws and reacting to unpredictable events. The challenge is immense, as the car's computer must be able to handle every possible situation on the road, from a child chasing a ball to a sudden construction zone. The move towards a smarter car is changing our relationship with driving. When cars can drive themselves, the interior can be transformed from a cockpit into a mobile living room or office. Passengers will be free to work, watch movies, or simply relax during their commute. This will have a profound impact on how we design our cities and spend our time. The car is evolving from a tool that you operate into a service that transports you. This smart car era, combining electrification, connectivity, and autonomy, represents one of the most significant transformations in the history of personal transportation. Looking ahead, the future of the motor car is set to be more transformative than any period that has come before. The path is clearly pointing towards full electrification. Many governments around the world have already set deadlines to ban the sale of new gasoline and diesel cars, some as early as 2030. This is pushing car manufacturers to accelerate their transition to all-electric lineups. We can expect to see batteries with even longer ranges, much faster charging times, and lower costs. This will make electric cars accessible and practical for everyone, completely replacing the internal combustion engine that has dominated for over a century. The car of the future will be defined by its intelligence. The journey towards full autonomy will continue, with cars becoming increasingly capable of handling complex driving situations on their own. Artificial intelligence will not only pilot the vehicle, but also personalize the entire experience for its occupants. Your car might know your daily schedule, precondition the cabin to your preferred temperature, and suggest the best route based on real-time traffic and weather data. The car's interior will become a flexible, connected space, seamlessly integrated with our digital lives, blurring the lines between home, office, and vehicle. Sustainability will be at the heart of future car design and manufacturing. The focus will extend beyond just zero tailpipe emissions. Companies are exploring ways to build cars using sustainable and recycled materials, reducing the environmental impact of the entire production process. The concept of car ownership itself may change. With the rise of autonomous ride-sharing services, many people, especially in cities, may choose not to own a car at all. Instead, they will simply summon a self-driving vehicle whenever they need one, paying per trip. This could lead to fewer cars on the road, less congestion, and more green space in our cities. From Karl Benz's rattling three-wheeler to the silent, self-driving electric vehicles on the horizon, the evolution of the automobile has been an epic journey. It is a story of human ingenuity, ambition, and the relentless pursuit of freedom and progress. The car has shaped our world, our cities, and our lives in countless ways. As we stand on the brink of the next great chapter, powered by electricity and guided by artificial intelligence, one thing is certain: the road ahead will be filled with even more exciting innovations, redefining what a car is and what it can do for us. The adventure is far from over.